So hi everybody. I'm not sure where you guys are joining from, but welcome. Here, I'm in North Carolina at my in-laws' place, and it's 12 noon right now. And I think most of you have probably come from Instagram. Maybe some of you have joined from elsewhere, but welcome. I'm going to share my screen and start the presentation that I have prepared. There will be a little bit of an overlap to the last webinar if some of you have joined, but since not everybody has joined the last one, I'm gonna still go through the basics, but do it quickly. Okay, so let me share my screen. So this is the How to Edit Like a Pro seminar, and it's the second seminar. The last time we edited a sunset photo, and this time we're going to focus a lot more on night photos, but I'm also going to go through a little bit about, oh, I see all your questions now. We're going to go through a little bit about color theory, why color is so important in editing. Okay, hi guys. Mr. D is not joining today. he's shy. Yeah, so feel free to make your questions, comments in the question section, and I will be able to see them and answer you there. I'm already seeing some familiar names. Okay, so first, for those who don't know, my name is Tina, and I am a content creator right now, stuck at home. But normally I travel around the world and I take photos, and I also do some photography on the side for brands and the occasional client. Speed through that. And obviously you're here because you know that editing is super important to really make your photo go from meh to wow, right? Okay, I'm not gonna dwell on that. So this time I really do want to talk a little bit about color and why it's so important in editing, and how you can also train your eye to look at pictures and analyze the kind of colors that are there, and that will help you better edit your photos in the future as well. Because once you understand how color works, it can really help you. So let's look at the color wheel. So I hope you've joined the folder that I've prepared for everybody here. This is a Bublup folder. I'm sure most of you are signed up. You get free storage, and here I put all of my free resources. I'm just going to show you my home. So here you can see I have so many resources. I have like a New York guide here. I have an entire posing tips folder and photography folders. If you haven't joined already, feel free to join. I have a link in my bio on my Instagram for all of these folders. Today we're going to focus on this one, this folder. I also created a new folder here called Submit Your Edits, and this is a new folder. I'm going to open the editing rights so everybody can add images after this webinar. Basically, I would love to see your edits, and we can all help to see, you know, how we can give you some feedback, or perhaps where you could improve or what you could look out for. So definitely after this webinar, if you've edited something and you would like some feedback, you can put it in this folder. And a lot of these resources maybe you've seen before if you joined the last webinar. But today we're going to look in particular at colors. So here's a picture that I found on the internet, and I think it's really helpful for understanding colors. As many of you know, I was a designer before I became a content creator and doing photography. So color was always a huge part of what I do every day. So understanding the primary colors, complementary colors. So complementary colors are colors on the opposite sides of the color wheel. If you want your picture to pop, let's say you're preparing for a photo shoot with a lavender field. Not that I think we can travel before then, but you can see it's purple, and in the color wheel, the complementary color is yellow. So if you want to wear, let's say, a yellow dress to a lavender field, it would really pop in the picture. That's just an example. You can also do let's see, analogous or monochromatic. So these are different ways. So monochromatic would be different shades of yellow, and analogous here would be colors that are close to each other on the color wheel. Okay, so let's see. How can I? Okay, this is a very good link to an article that you can take a quick look at. So for example, here you can see these are analogous colors, so colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. It's very helpful for if you want to color coordinate your feed, you want it to look very harmonious. If you think about creators like Tara Milty, she uses analogous colors and monochromatic themes all the time, and it looks really good together, so it blends well together. If you want to make something pop, like here, complementary colors work the best at opposite sides of the color wheel. So this is just something that you can take a look at. These are some resources that I've put in this folder. When you understand color, it can really help you when you're editing an image, understanding the colors and how saturated it is, or if you need more vibrance, or if you should accentuate the purple or not accentuate it too much. So everyone has different editing styles. I'm going to use my friend Cookie because he's amazing as an example. So this is his photo today. Beautiful, stunning collage. He has these really warm tones here, orange. You can see the orange and yellow here, and on the skin tone, the light on her body here. But in the background, you can see that the neon lights and the shadows, he used a more bluish, almost like a teal tone. So this orange teal editing style is pretty common for street style photographers, but I think he does it very artfully. So a way you can improve your editing is to train your eye and look at other people's images. Look at what colors are there. Is it complementary? Is it analogous? This will really help to elevate your own editing when you're looking at your own photos. So I want to show you another example. This is a Russian photographer. She, on the other hand, does very monochromatic pictures like this one. So I would bet that it wasn't this purple before she edited it. There's probably a lot of other colors, but she made the whole image look monochromatic, and this is sort of what she does very well. And you can also take a look at her gallery to determine what kind of style you like. For example, her lavender fields are very purple. I've purchased her presets before, and unfortunately, those presets do not work on my photos because they are so saturated. But that is her style, and it's also a very popular style, very vibrant, saturated colors. You can see the sky here is quite purple. Sky normally is like a sky blue, really, and her tones are very pinkish purpley, so that's more of a dreamy vibe. So you can just go through various photographers and look at their things and understand their style. Like you can see here, obviously there's pink flamingos, so the picture looks very pink, but look at the way the St. Mark Cathedral was colored. It's actually, in real life, it's more of a bluish color, like very neutral, but she made it very pinkish tone so that the entire image has an analogous color theme to it. Okay, so I would recommend that you spend some of your time looking through other people's images and breaking it down, and that will really help you train your eye. And again, I'm just sharing this to show you when you're preparing for a photo shoot. What I like to do is create a folder of my mood board. So I find that this really helps me gather my ideas. So I have like photo inspo here, all of the images that are a similar style, or the poses that I can do, or the outfits that would fit well. So you can put all of these into a folder in your Bublup folder, and then you show. Did I get muted, or is everybody can hear me, right? Okay, anyway, so let's say you're preparing for your wedding photo shoot and you want to show your photographer what kind of photos you want or how you want it to look. This is a great way to do it. Okay, moving on. So today we're gonna talk in particular about night photos. This is one of my more recent night photos I took in my apartment in New York City. You can see the before picture, it's always very more dull looking. So this is just a quick reminder, if you have a professional camera or a camera that has the option to shoot RAW, please always shoot RAW. And basically what that is just the, how do I say this? It is the unedited version with the most data from the image that is preserved. So a JPEG is more like a flattened image, and straight out of the camera, a JPEG would look better. But if you shoot in RAW, then you can take it into Lightroom or Photoshop, and you can do a lot with this image. There's a lot that you can pull out in terms of details, color, dark spots. Like, let's just say you can see the image here is very dark because you want to expose for night photos, you want to expose for the highlights. So the light here, your skin tone here. And then later on, you can pull it out so that it would look more like this after photo. So it's very important to shoot in RAW for those reasons, particularly for night photos, because it's so dark and you really need to preserve all the details. Okay, so if you have a camera, you want to go into your settings and set it up right now. Oop. Let's see. Okay, well, every camera is different, so I'm not going to show you today because we're going to focus more on editing right now. But just so you know, you can always Google it. Every camera has their RAW setting in a different place. It's an absolute must. So I hope you will do that. Okay, let's keep going. So with a night photo, when you're taking the photo, remember that low shutter speed is an absolute must. So I'm going to breeze through this a little bit because we're going to talk about editing rather than the photo taking, but this is a very important thing. So this is why I shoot a lot of my night photos on a tripod, because then I can set it on a timer and it will not shake. And this is also why when you're taking a night photo, often you have to hold your breath and not move, because the moment you shake, the image will be shaky. But if you want it to look crisp, so the secret to a night photo looking crisp and sharp and still good quality, not noisy, is putting it on a tripod, putting it on low shutter speed and on a timer. And then when you're posing, do not move. So just like hold your breath and everything. And then you'll have a beautiful image like this one on the right. Okay, so the software that we're going to be using to edit is, as always, Lightroom Classic CC. It is the traditional Lightroom for powerful desktop editing. If you have the mobile version or if you have the simplified cloud-based version, that is okay too. If you have Photoshop, you can also use almost the exact same functions to edit your images. So whatever software you have, I really do recommend that you use Adobe softwares to edit, but these are the ones that I personally use. So now I'm going to take you through the editing process. Basically, I've listed it in this presentation, which will be in the folder later for you, so that you can always take a look at it. But let's get into my Lightroom. So this is a photo that we'll be editing today. This was from a hotel called Nomo Soho that my friend Ilona and I went to. Okay, so it's, as you can see, we set it up on a tripod, so it's a little bit crooked. First, what I like to do always is to determine the frame of the picture. How am I going to frame it? So let's make sure the horizon is straight and these lines are straight. Yeah, like that. And then I always crop it first 4x5 for Instagram, because that's where I post all my images. So here you can see that this line is reasonably straight, but this one is still tilted. Personally, I hate tilted lines. I think I have OCD with lines that are not straight. So I'm gonna go down here to this transform section. This is a really, really helpful section where when you're shooting, it was too tilted or it was not straight on, then you can always fix it here. So let's go into the horizontal line. So you can see here originally, can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, you can see it? Like I'm moving it
Yes,
like crazy?
I can.
Okay, awesome. So you can see that this line is tilted originally. So what you want to do is just go into horizontal and sort of fix that. Now you can see it's almost the same height here and here. You can just fix it however you like. Okay, that's okay. Okay, I think that's okay. So let's work with this. And don't mind this little white piece. I will show you after we finish editing this image how to fill this up easily in Photoshop. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to go into the basic edits. Usually when we look at an image, the first step is to edit the lights and shadows, exposure and contrast, because that will sort of determine how you move forward with all of the local adjustments. So usually what I do is here, I always bring up the shadows because it's a night photo, there's a lot of shadows, and I bring down the highlights so you can see how much of a difference. Okay, I always get this question, Tina, how do I edit so that in the night photos, the lights, meaning these string lights, look very bright, but I don't lose the quality and everything is still clear. Always bring down the highlights And then turn up the exposure. Not too much though, because it's a night photo, so you want to keep it kind of dark. But right now we are just doing the global adjustments. So once you have all these global adjustments, we will go in and fix certain parts. So if we want to make the sky darker, we can fix that later. If we want to make me brighter, we can fix that later. So right now, this is just the preliminary adjustments. I always like to bring up the contrast, particularly for a night photo. Contrast is crucial because then otherwise you would lose a lot of details. Let's emphasize the light a little bit, so bring up the white, and I'm gonna leave the black as is. I don't want it to look too dark. And of course, clarity, I always like to increase the clarity to at least about 20. For night photos, sometimes because it's not always clear, so I can sometimes push it up to, let's say 30, not more than 40, because otherwise you can see what happens. If this is just an extreme example, it becomes really, really black and kind of like a scene from Stranger Things. So let's not do that. So let's bring it down to 20. And then as a default, I like to increase the vibrance, and I'll fix all these colors later because my images tend to be slightly more vibrant. Okay, now let's have a look at this. Clearly, it is too yellow. So let's go into the temperature here and bring down the temperature. I think that looks pretty decent. Also notice how bringing down the temperature, how the blue changes. It becomes the sky becomes much more blue. So I think this looks okay. We can fix that blue later. But if you look at this yellow part, to me, it looks a bit green. So when you're editing, you want to analyze, like, is this a more greenish yellow, or is this more like an orangey, pinkish, reddish yellow? So then you can know, like, oh, I should adjust my tint, or I should adjust my temperature. So we're gonna adjust the tint just a little bit. So now you can see this yellow went from really yellow to like sort of like a nice neutral white ivory color. So I like that. I think that's nice. Now we can go down to, I tend to leave the tonal curve as is. I don't do too much with the tonal curve, like I mentioned last time. That's just my personal preference. I know there are many photographers who live for the tonal curve. Okay, so now this section is going to completely change our image, the color section. You want to bring out HSL so that you can adjust the saturation, luminance, and hue. So first, let's fix this blue. It looks very purpley, which is sort of it's a tendency for fantasy-like images to be more purple. So I'm gonna decrease the saturation of purple and blue. So now it looks a little bit more realistic. And since it's a night sky, there's a lot of clouds. I'm also going to decrease the luminance so that it looks more like nighttime. So if you still think this looks kind of purple, what you can do is go into the hue, and that will change the color composition of your specific colors. So this blue can become more like a teal color. Okay, we don't want that, but just a little bit is good. So this is the original. You can see it has a pinkish tint. And once you bring it down, it's more of a neutral blue. Okay, I think that's good. Yeah. Next, I'm going to do the skin color. So I tend to like to desaturate the orange so that the skin color is not too orange and it looks more like a real skin tone. Then, because I'm Asian, my parents always want me to be very pale and white. So I'm gonna up the luminance for orange. This is completely up to you. If you want to be tanned, which is just as beautiful, you just decrease the luminance and then you look very tanned. So this is just your own personal preference. I personally tend to like my skin to look a bit brighter. So I'm gonna increase the luminance a lot. Yeah, okay. And maybe that was okay. And I think that looks okay, the skin tone. Let's move on to, I want to see if I can make this flower a bit more saturated. So I think that would likely be the red color. So you can see when I increase the saturation, it becomes much more pink. However, all of these other colors here became really pink too. So let's just do just a little bit. Okay. Another little tip is when you're uncertain what color, you should go to this dot here, click on it, and then sit on the color that you want to select, and then now you can move it around, and then you'll know, you can see the red tab moving. So here, red and orange. So basically
Tina,
this
do you want
is
to
red
repeat
and
that?
orange.
You
Yes.
froze for a minute and your
Okay.
screen froze, so we couldn't see
Oh,
that. That's okay.
okay.
If you want to just repeat it again.
Yes. So the tip is if you're not sure what color you should adjust in this bar, just click on this round button and then go to the color. And now you can scroll left or right and it will tell you, it will adjust here. So you'll know, oh, I need to go into the red or the orange and then it will change this color. So that's just a little tip. Since this still looks a little bit yellow, I might also decrease the saturation of yellow here. This is also personal preference. If you like it looking nice and warm, then you can keep it yellow or you can even increase the yellow. But I'm just going to bring it down a little bit and maybe increase the luminance so that this area really pops. Okay, next step is the split toning. So split toning is great for usually indoor photos and sunset photos. So if you want that sunset to look super creamy, nice, and orange, then you go into the highlights and you make it like an orange tint and you bring up the saturation and then it'll look like craziness like this. But here I'm not gonna do too much. I might just make the highlights just a tad like warmer, maybe here. It's gonna be a little orangey looking. I think that's nice. But it's completely up to you. Let's say if you want the highlights to be a more cool color, then you move it to the blue here and then just increase the saturation that way. So you can see how that really changed this image. I mean, this is another different kind of edit for a night photo too. And maybe you like it like this rather than like really warm tone. So that's completely up to your preferences. I am gonna leave it at this. So the same thing you can do with the shadows and how to identify the shadows in a picture. You just need to go into, back up to the basic edit section here. Just bring the shadow all the way down. And then you'll see all the parts that went really, really dark are the shadows. So you can imagine if you want these shadow parts to look a certain color, you can go into split toning shadows and fix that. So let's say we do it slightly more cool color. So what a lot of photographers do is they make the highlights more orange and the shadows more of a teal color. I'm gonna bring it back to this. It's sort of similar to, well, it's sort of similar to what a lot of street photographers do. Is for example here. You can see the highlights here are kind of like an orangey yellow color, but not too much. It's not too saturated. And then the shadows and the other parts of the image are more of a blue tone. So this gives more contrast and makes your image a little bit more dynamic, so to speak. But for a more monochromatic look, when there's a complete, say, complete absence of blue, then you can also go for this kind of look. Okay, so that's just showing you an example. Oopsie. Yeah, preview of my new post. Okay. This is okay, that's the split toning. So now we're going to go into the detail section. This is actually very important for a night photo because often it's a little bit shaky or it's not super defined and colors are very dark. So I tend to be pretty generous about this sharpening. Just bring it all the way up. And also, noise reduction is something that you absolutely need in a night photo because often there could, well, I mean, this one is pretty good. There's not too much noise. There's a little bit of noise, but if you bring up the noise reduction, see how it blurs it a bit. So there's less noisy particles, but do be careful because you will notice that it also makes the whole image a little bit more blurry and slightly less defined. So usually I never go above 40 in noise reduction because then you can lose a lot of the crisp. Then you can definitely bring up the noise reduction here. And yeah, my ISO here is 800. I think that's acceptable for a night photo. I try not to go over about 1,000 in ISO for any night picture. And it generally gives you a pretty good result, especially when it's for Instagram. So the lens correction, dalgona latte. The lens correction here, if you use fisheye lens, you can go into profile and fix it. For most other lens, they usually don't fix a lot. It's just, you can see there's a slight fixing of, it makes it just a little bit more straight. But you can also manually distort it if you like, based on your preferences. Okay, now let's move on. So I want to mention here, there's a vignetting option. Vignette, you can basically create dark, like a dark circle around, help you
Hey,
draw
Tina,
the
your
eye's
Wi-Fi is
attention to the
cutting in
center.
and out a little bit,
Yes.
and it's tough to see you and hear you and see your screen. So maybe you want to give it a minute to remedy itself.
Okay. Yes, I will. One sec.
Yeah, why don't you try continuing without your video on? That might help it along. You want to move your mouse a little bit, and there you go. You're back at full speed. So you want to just repeat that last part for the last 30 seconds would be great.
Okay. Okay. Sorry guys about the internet. basically what I was saying is you can do the vignetting option here, but I will show you how I manually create a vignette for every single picture. I never use this because it's just easier to create your own vignette. Okay, and here is the transform section that we saw earlier. I've already fixed, so we're not gonna touch this, but little tip if you want to look skinnier, especially if you're standing, this is a sitting photo, so again, it doesn't apply, is you just go to aspect and you increase it. Then it will pull straight. On the flip side, if you use a really, really wide angle and you look too, you can also go the other way. So you make it a bit shorter. Okay, so in this case, we're not gonna do anything. So that's it for the basic edits in this on these panels. Now I'm gonna go into the regional editing and also fixing this reflection that I promised I would show. So stay with me. First, we're gonna go into this circle. Am I still okay right now?
We lost you for about 10 seconds there. You said you were going to go into a circle and then you froze, but we can hear you again. So if you want to continue from the circle,
Okay. Yeah.
that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. Because it did say I lost some connection. So this circle here is the radial filter. This is an absolute, really important thing that you want to know. So what I do with this is you can the subject. So I like to create a little circle here, right around where I am. And oh, by the way, when you create these filters, if you want to read on effect, so let's say it was like this, just double click on this effect here, and it will clear all of the tabs. Okay, so now let's take a look at this. It looks like the shadows are a little bit dark, so I'm gonna increase the shadow just a little bit. Oh, much nicer. I want to increase the white a little bit so that I can bring out all of these, so it really like pops more. And maybe bring down the black so that my hair is still black. I like to sharpen it because I think it was not completely in focus. Yeah, it's slightly blurry, as you can see, and I think I just didn't set my focus right. So I like to increase the sharpness here. And I think that looks good for the person. Next, I'm going to create another radial filter and create a vignette. So usually, since this is a center focus, very simple picture, I'm going to create the vignette so that it's like this. Let's double click again on the effect to clear everything. So right now, whatever you do affects the middle part of the radial filter, right? We want to invert that. Well, I mean, unclick the invert so that it affects the outside. So now you can see it affects the outside of it. So what I like to do is really darken all the areas. So this area, all of this sheets. This is completely non-essential information in this picture. So let's decrease that. So I like to decrease the exposure plus the shadows. And in the blacks a little bit. So now you can see it is nice, it creates this nice vignette, and you can adjust it according to how you like. But it looks a lot better. It really brings attention to the person here. If you want to go an extra step and really make sure that, let's say, the legs are as evenly exposed as the body, go to this brush here. This is a local adjustment brush, and make it the size that you want and then just paint over it. So I'm gonna show the selected mask overlay here so you can see what I'm painting over. And also when you're painting this, you can go into here and you can choose how much feather you want, what size you want it to be. The flow is basically how opaque this brush is. So if you put it to 100, then it's like fully, it would do it, the adjustment fully. But I like to keep it low so that I can slowly build on the brush. So just go like this. For this, I think a rough estimate is okay. I just think these parts are a little too dark. Let's unclick that so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just gonna bring up everything a little bit. Okay. Oop. I think that's pretty good. So now you have a pretty evenly lit body. And I'm actually gonna go in and make my denim shorts a little bit more saturated and a little bit darker in color. So like bring up the saturation here. So now you can see the denim will pop a little bit more. This is without the local adjustment brush and with. So I think that's nice. This is a good way to adjust anything you like in the image. Okay, done. So I'm looking at this image. I still feel like this pot is a bit distracting because it's a bit too bright and too white. You can go into this graduated filter here. It's basically a gradient, and then just pull it up like this. And maybe like this. And just lower the exposure, maybe not that much. Bring down the shadows, and you can see that this affects this area. This section here is just the gradient to blend it in. So the more you pull it up, the more it blends, and the more you make it really short, the more it's like a sharp line. So I like to have it be nicely blended. And then if you want to, let's say you want to darken this area, but you also want to add this and add this. You just go into brush. Well, after clicking on this graduated filter, go to brush and brush it in. So you can create any kind of shape you want and just bring in those shadows. I'm gonna darken all these areas so you don't get distracted by them. And voila. So now I think it's a lot better. Actually, maybe let's bring it down a little bit. Okay, so now you can really like see the person clearly. It's in focus. Next, we're gonna get rid of these reflections, these annoying reflections. So this part, oh, that's actually the outdoor balcony. So let's get rid of this section here. What you can do, there are many, many ways to get rid of reflections in the window. But I'm gonna show you the easier, like a simple way here. I'm gonna use this graduated filter again, okay, because it's a straight line. So it's easy to just create a, oop, oop, okay, let's zoom in. Okay, oh, that was pretty close. I'm just gonna adjust it a little bit. Oh, too much. I think my computer is also lagging, that's why I can't adjust so well. Okay, yeah, let's just leave it at that. So bring it in so that it's like a sharper line right where the shadow ends. So Okay, let me show you. So before I added this, it looked like this. Now that you add this filter, now we've decreased the exposure. I'm gonna reset it. So you can decrease the exposure, you can bring down the shadows. Let's bring down the white section. The white will make this pot less white. I think that looks pretty good. I want this blue to look similar to this blue, so I'm gonna make it a bit more blue. And I can see that this has a little bit of a greenish teal color, and this is more purple. So you want to bring the tint to a bit more green. Ew, no, ew. Okay. Something like that. Okay. And maybe bring up the saturation a little bit because it's looking a bit dull. Okay. Don't worry about it. It doesn't look perfect yet, but we will fix it in Photoshop. So this is a very quick way you can do it. And then obviously we only want this part to be darker, right? We don't want like this panel, we don't want these to be darker. So just go back to the brush button while you have this selected, and then press on your option key. You see how what goes from a plus to a minus. So minus, basically you can delete all this part. Let's delete all this. Let's bring the flow up. Okay, let's delete. Wow, that was easy. So now you got rid of that, and let's make the brush smaller and delete this bar as well. Okay. Ta-da. So you can still see a slight line here. We'll fix that in Photoshop now. So let's go. What you want to do to bring a Lightroom picture into Photoshop is right click, edit in Photoshop. And it will bring the picture into Photoshop. Oh my God, it's already 12:50. I'm gonna finish this real quick and then you guys can ask any questions you have. Okay, so here we are now in Photoshop. Let's take a look. This section needs fixing. This line needs fixing. This reflection, like all these unnecessary little things are very distracting. So also you can see how there's this little bar of empty space here. Let's fill this part in first. What you want to do is go to the lasso tool here. The shortcut is L, and with the you can choose. I'm going to use a polygonal lasso tool. Basically, it creates straight lines. Select this section here. Go to Edit, Fill, and use Content Aware. And it will basically just grab whatever is around it and fill it in. Look, perfect. That was easy. Now, I feel like this image is slightly off center. I want it to go a bit more this way. So I'm going to go like this, just a little bit. Okay. And what we can do again is use the content aware tool the same way. Go to Edit, Fill, Content Aware. click OK, and it will fill it in for you. Let's see if it works. Sometimes it doesn't always work. It really depends on your picture and, oh, it's slow. Okay, oh, that's not bad. It's pretty good. It filled in pretty well. And we're gonna do the same here. Go to fill, content aware, and it will fill in this section here. Very slow. Okay, oh, it filled it in. Looks pretty good, right? So now you can see that this top part, the lights didn't get copied up. Now let's come in and fix that. Ooh. Okay. What you want to do is go into the clone tool here and adjust your brush size to however you want it. Let's do the opacity here at about 80. So, okay, this is about the size of this. What you want to press is Option key, clone it, and put it here. Clone this, and put it here. Same thing, clone, stamp, clone, stamp. Easy, right? Ta-da, it's fixed. Next, let's fix the reflection. So let's get rid of this thing. What you can do again is use the lasso tool, select it. As long as the surrounding is of similar color, you can use the content aware tool and fix it. Oh, magic. So I'm just going to do the same for all of these little distracting light reflections. I think there's some here. Keep in mind, however, let me show you what happens when it's close to another surface and you try to do the content aware. It may not work. Oh, it kind of worked for this one. Never mind. Let's say if you accidentally go into the white and you're trying to get rid of this part, just as an example of what might not work is it may copy the white part into the parts that where you don't want the white. So do be careful with the content aware tool. It only works when it's like an isolated color. So let's say we want to fix this. We can easily use the clone tool, the stamp tool, and take something that's similar color and paste it. So it's just a copy and paste, really. Okay. For this, let's lower the opacity so that it will blend nicely. So take this part and copy it here. Copy. A quick and easy way. Okay. Let's do the same to this. Oopsie. You want to make sure you don't copy the parts that you don't want. So it's just a little bit tedious and you just kind of have to keep repeating yourself and it will eventually give you the results that you want. Okay, let's just say that's enough for now and we want to fix this line. You can do the same thing, just use the clone tool and gathers color nearby and sort of blend over it. It might take a few tries. You can bring color from this side and blend it in. Oops, don't get the buildings. Like so. So that way you can really sort of, it's a bit of trial and error, but you can slowly blend everything and it'll look a lot more natural. You can do it the same with this difference here. Just bring it over and blend it. So it looks a lot nicer. Oh, look at that. So much nicer, right? And then just save this. It will automatically save it to Lightroom. It might take a little while to save. And now it's showed up here. Now this is the complete version. Actually, I just noticed this little thing here and it's kind of annoying me. So I'm gonna go in here and use the content aware tool again. And just fix this black thing. Oh, there we go. Save it. And now you have your final image in Lightroom. Oh, and if you want to make any final adjustments, you can still go in and do that. Let's say I want to make it just a little bit darker. No, I think it's nice as is. Now you can just right click and export. And export it however you like it. Usually I do it in the same original folder. I give it a name, my photo. And I usually have the quality between 90 to 100 depending on file size to be, and also I it and just make sure that the resolution is 300. So this is depending on how you want it, where you're going to use it. And then now you have your final image. You can upload it anywhere you want. Oh, I also noticed this little thing. You can go fix that in Photoshop if you like. So yeah, so just remember that I have a lot of resources here in the folder, and we will be putting the replay of this video also in this folder. And please do submit your edits if you have time for that, and I will take a look at them and give you some feedback. I would also highly recommend that whenever you find tutorials online, or if you find an inspiring artist online, save all of your info into a folder for yourself. You can name it photography inspiration, or you can do a photography tutorial folder, and then you can have subfolders. Like one is for editing, one is for photography, and that will help you organize all your thoughts. So let's say one day you forget, I forgot how I edited blah blah blah. You can just come back into the folder and it's all there and you can revisit. That's a really great way to sort of keep up with your knowledge if you're not doing it every single day and practicing every single day. So I'm going to answer some questions. But first of all, for those who might be in a rush, thank you for joining me. I know it's like 1 p.m., maybe you're hungry or maybe it's late, but I'm going to take a look at the questions and answer them. So Kiki happens if you try to edit a JPEG. Nothing really happens when you edit in a JPEG, but a JPEG has limited details saved in the file. So let's say when you're trying to bring out the shadows in a picture like this, the quality will not be as good. And it would likely be a little bit more noisy. That's the main difference. Santa asked, what is hue? So hue is here, as you can see. Oh wait, hue. What is hue? Here. If you look at the hue of each individual color, let's just use blue as an example. The hue is sort of the color composition of a color. So there's all different kinds of blue, right? This is like kind of like a neutral blue, but you also have a very tealish, greenish blue, but you also have a purplish blue. So that's what the hue determines. What can I do if I want to just highlight a particular spot in the picture? So that's basically what all these adjustments are for. Let's say if you want to just highlight this flower, you can also create a little circle and just bring up the exposure like that. Super easy. Okay, blah, blah, blah. What if there's a white backdrop? What complement color to use for? Okay, Akansha asks, what if there's a white backdrop? What color to use for it to pop? If there's white, honestly, any color works here, because you can wear black if you want the abstract look. You can use red if you want to create a more artistic kind of vibe, or you can use like similar colors, like you can use ivory and pale pink and really blend in and have it look nice. So it's completely up to you like to create. Okay. Oh, what? Okay, this is a good question, Fionn. What if I just want the flowers pink to be more saturated, but not the lining of the shirt? So that's exactly what I just showed you. As you can see, this little circle here, you can make it, let's bring the exposure down. Make it pink, just increase the tint here, and maybe increase the temperature too. You can increase the saturation here. So you can see now it's like super saturated. So this is before and after. So that's a great way you can do it. Okay. Oh. How long does it take to edit each picture on average? That would completely depend on what image it is, really. Sometimes it can be 5 minutes, sometimes it could be 5 hours. So depending on the distribution of the image, the color, and how tricky it is. Oh, okay. So for beginners, I would recommend you start with a Lightroom mobile app and play around there to familiarize yourself with how these functions work and the basic adjustments that you can create. It's a very quick and easy way. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you decide that you like it and you want to get more professional, then you can pay for the proper Lightroom software and download it. So why do I not use Lightroom CC cloud-based to edit? It's because the classic Lightroom still has the most powerful functions. It's for extended editing, so I still choose this one as my go-to software. Okay. Dia asks what my favorite camera to shoot with is. I have to say, I used to be a Canon person, but I have since last year converted to Sony, and it's an absolute game changer for me. They're not sponsoring me. I wish they did, but this is the Sony a7R III. There is now an a7R IV, which is new. These are pretty expensive cameras, but depending on your purpose, it's really good. In general, even if you go for a cheaper mirrorless camera, Sony has better dynamic range, meaning you can bring up the shadows in editing a lot more. You can bring back the highlights. Even if in camera it looks blown out, when you put it into an edit on a raw file, you can bring back all the, let's say the clouds are blown out. You can bring back a lot of detail. It's amazing. It performs really well in low light, and it's also it has a built-in stabilization. So when you're shooting, let's say your shutter speed is low and you have shaky hands, usually the photo still turns out pretty good. So is taking an editing on iPhone enough? Absolutely. Depending on the lighting of the situation, if you're talking about a night photo, it may be harder, but also depends on which iPhone you have. If you have the newest iPhone, the night mode is pretty decent, and you can take that and edit it in the app on your phone. But also, I believe there are apps that you can download on iPhone where you can shoot manually, and you can I think shoot in RAW. But I'm not familiar with that because I don't have a really nice iPhone, and I don't have the newest iPhone, and also I don't really shoot with my iPhone. So, and Photoshop and Lightroom is not free, by the way. You do have to pay for it. I right now for the first year am paying about $25 a month for all of the Lightroom Adobe softwares. Oops, sorry, I just realized I've been showing you my screen for a long time with absolutely nothing. Okay, so pay these Adobe softwares. For someone like me, it's absolutely worth it. You can try it out if you're interested. So,
Do you want to turn your camera on again, Tina, so we can see you as you answer these questions?
it's not on. Oops.
No, right now we're just looking at a thing waiting to view your screen.
Share my webcam. Oh, hey, can you see me?
There you are.
Okay, what's another question? Can a ring light work for white backdrop for light source for self-portrait? Absolutely. A ring light is very, very helpful. Let me show you my ring. Oh no, it's outside. It's not here. But a ring light is a very, very option to light up your face and give you that slightly more professional look. It works even if you're just taking an iPhone photo. I really do recommend getting a ring light if you like it. Okay. After I edit the photos, do you store photos in cloud storage? Personally, I put it in external hard drives, and I have about like 5 of them, and I label them like by the date sometimes and by which hard drive it is, so I can remember. Okay. So Taryn asks, apart from the circle and the rectangular tool, is there something that can be flexible freehand shape to do local adjustments, right? So this brush is, oh, sorry, I need to share my screen. So this brush here, you can create any shape you want with this local adjustment brush. So it can be like a random squiggly line, like that. So it can be anything, like you can do only the clouds, or you can do only this part. So whatever you want, you can use the brush tool. Okay. I think Marie asked a similar question, how to change the color of something that is not round like the flower. So you just use this brush tool and you can change the color just like how you changed the flower color, like so. See? Get really blue, really saturated. Ew, obviously you don't want to do that. Okay. So basically, okay, somebody asked, Kathy asks, just using Lightroom and Photoshop, the two tools is enough. For photo editing, yes, that's absolutely enough. Those are the two most powerful tools for photo editing, and those are the only ones that you need. Unless you're going to edit a video, then you can get Premiere Pro, or you can get the other one that I don't use. What do you recommend for beginner training? And I feel like this tutorial right now is pretty good for beginners, but you can rewatch it and like go through all the basic functions again if that could be helpful. And you can also watch the last webinar that I did. I will share a link on my Instagram. That also is a really good overview, but it's a different example of another image that I edited, so you can get a better idea. How much time do I spend planning the shoot to editing the photo? So each image is different, but planning and shooting usually is 1 to 2 hours, especially if it's like at home and you just set it up and you shoot it. Maybe 1 hour if it's fast, 2 hours if there's a lot to set up and it's not that easy to put together. The editing can be anywhere between 5 minutes for a simple photo to like 2 days. So with the mobile app, you do also have the radial filter options. Oh, sorry, the question was, with the mobile app, can you use the radial filter? Yes, I believe so. Tracy asked, what is a good camera for a beginner? I mean, that's a good question. There are many, many options out there. It would really depend on your price point. I think the Sony I think it's a 6400. I'm not sure if that's actually a beginner camera, but it's a pretty good, cheaper one to what I have. Yo, sorry, I don't know if I mispronounced your name, but is DSLR or mirrorless better? Tough question. I like mirrorless because it's lighter in weight, and for me, the outcome that it produces is not too dissimilar. Especially with the editing, I can always edit the image to look however I want it to look. So if you're like me and you can't take too much weight on your shoulders, I really recommend mirrorless for the lighter weight. And mirrorless is very powerful as well. So any recommendations other than Lightroom for photo editing? You can do the same thing in Photoshop if that's what you have instead of Lightroom, but I think most people, if they have Photoshop, they usually have Lightroom. If you want to just use like an iPhone app, I really do recommend, here are my apps that I use. Can you see? It's a bit blurred out. Oh, there we go. Visco is a good one. Facetune is good for fixing like skin, but definitely Visco. Snapseed is another one. Ooh, Snapseed is somewhere here. Snapseed is a pretty good one too, but I definitely think Visco, other than Adobe Lightroom, is the next one that I would recommend. So, oh, Cleo asked, for indoor photos, what do you like better, softbox kit or the ring light? So I have both, and I have to say I'm not a professional at indoor lighting or studio lighting by any means. I don't even really know, but so far I like the ring light better for the purposes of my photo shoots, which is small, confined space, simple backdrop. I personally like the ring light better. Okay, and Conchita asks, how do you apply custom filters onto Lightroom? I don't have custom. I don't use other people's filters. So, if you purchase a filter, I think they will have a tutorial where you can. Basically, it's just like a one click. It will be on. Let me show you. It will be on the left panel here, and let's see, presets. It'll be in the presets section. No, that's not right. Collections. Oh, yeah. Actually, I don't have any installed on my, because I had to clear out my entire laptop of everything and reinstall everything recently because it broke down. My computer broke down. So I don't have any presets installed right now. So, can I please do a Premiere Pro video edit soon? I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that is not my area of expertise. So I think there will be other people who will be way better than me that can give you editing sessions for Premiere Pro. Um, sorry, I can't pronounce your name, but so I'm not even gonna try. Where do you get inspirations for your photo shoots? I look a lot on Instagram and Pinterest, but also in general, just looking around with sort of a camera's eye. So thinking about what lens you have, what focal length you have, and then looking to see what lighting looks beautiful at what time. That gives me a lot of inspiration as well. But I would say mostly Pinterest and Instagram actually. Um, but also sometimes specific photographers that I find very talented. They really inspire me. Alina asks which laptop is good for photo editing. Honestly, any laptop that can handle Adobe software is good enough. It doesn't really matter if it's PC or a Mac. People do say like the Mac is better for design. However, I own both PC and Mac. I wouldn't say the Mac is particularly better in any way for me because I've edited it in both. So as long as your computer is powerful enough to handle editing software, then it's good enough. So, okay. Do both apps tally adjustments or changes? Okay, Eva asked, do you use a lot of layer masks ever when editing in Photoshop? Absolutely. So I can show you a quick example of the recent photo that I did with a magazine laying on the floor. There were a lot of layers to add to create the shadows. Let me see if I can share with you the screen. What's a recent photo? Oh no. Okay, maybe I'll show you later. Let me answer another question first. Okay, I will, could you please share the screenshot of the editing apps later in Insta? I will do that for you, definitely. Do I have presets of my own? I do. I save them. I have like maybe 30 of them, but you know, my editing style does keep changing as well. So sometimes I save them and I use my own presets for colors that are almost exactly the same. Let's say like night photos, I generally edit them the exact same way. So those I do use, but oftentimes I still edit from scratch and I don't use presets. It really depends on the image. Can I do a tutorial on how to do a color transitioning feed on Instagram? Yes, maybe we can do that sometime. So if you currently only have your phone to take pictures, how do you make those pictures Insta-worthy? Really great question. Really good lighting is key. So don't do it in a dark place. Golden hour is the best. So sunrise, sunset. If you can, let's say you're indoors, because we're all indoors right now, if you can sit next to a window and the light is coming in, that's already going to make for a much nicer picture. And I also think that props are really, really helpful and really important. So any kind of color that you can add to the image will also make it a lot nicer. But also adding colors that really work well together, whether you want contrast or you want it to blend nicely. Using the right colors for the purpose of the kind of image you want to create is really important. So other than just like say basic stuff like flowers, you know, sometimes newspapers, sometimes a coffee cup or a book can just instantly make the image go from kind of not so interesting to a lot more pleasant and even if it's slightly staged, the more shapes there are in the image, the more interesting it is to look at, right? Although we also don't want to overload the image too much. So depending on what picture you want to take. Susan also asked about the feed, how to organize it so it looks so nice. So I use this app called Planoly, where I plan out my feed entirely, and I do it about 1 week in advance. Sometimes like I still don't know what I'm going to post the next day, but sometimes it could be planned out 1 to 2 weeks in advance, and that's how I organize it, so I know what colors go next to each other. And then let's say I have a post that I have to create in 3 days, I'll know what color is next to it, so then I can set up the photos so that it's the right colors. Okay, that's like a very basic overview, but there's so much to talk about in terms of like how to organize your feed. Excuse me. Yo Shay asks, what lens do you use most of the time and like the most? So I have 2 lenses that I like the most right now. This one is a 35mm f1.4. It's a Zeiss lens, so it's quite expensive, but it gives that nice, blurry, bokeh look. And I can show you an example. This one I did, oh, shoot, stop showing screen. This one I did recently and posted on the feed. This is done with the 35 1.4. So you can see like these door edges are nice and blurry, but I'm nice and crisp and clear. So that's something that I really like. Another one that is really good, okay. This one that I did recently, I did it with the 12 to 24mm f4. It doesn't do so well in low light, but because it's such a wide angle lens, it's just really good for small spaces, for when you, okay, this is another example I took with this lens. So this was pretty wide as well, so you can get all of these details in the shot. So those are my 2 favorite lenses right now. Oh, can I tell in a few sentences how you edited the sponsored video for the shot in the hotel? I'm gonna end this soon, okay? But I'm just gonna show you really quickly what they're talking about. The So I believe this person is talking about this video where everybody else is frozen and I'm walking. This was done in Photoshop, and basically I did a video of myself walking, and then I put layers of people on top of it in the photo format, so they're not moving. So I'm the only one moving, and then the parts that don't overlap with me are not moving, are like photos, layers of photos. And it's all about layering, layers, masking in Photoshop. Okay, so I think I'm gonna just see if there's any more. Do you know how to edit? So a lot more questions are all about how to keep the feed consistent. I think I've sort of gone over that a little bit. Rena asked, do you use JPEG for daylight shooting too? No, I always use RAW. It doesn't matter what it is, day or night or midday, whatever. I always shoot in RAW because it is the best file format to edit in. And I think with that, I'm going to end the Q&A here because some of them are a little bit of a repeat. I really hope you learned something in this webinar, and don't forget to go to the folder for the resources and check out the color theory folder that I put in there, because I think that would be very helpful for you. But also you can go into the photography inspiration folder. There's a lot of talented photographers there. If you go into their page and really look at their images and sort of break it down, you will actually learn a lot by just looking at other people's pictures. It will help you improve too. And also, to help you improve, I really recommend starting your own folder so that you can gather all of these tutorials. You know, you can copy this recorded video into your folder so that you can revisit it later. And then you can also go to a YouTube link and paste it in so that you can revisit that later. Or you can also, like, if someone shares tips in an Instagram post, you can copy that link and put it into the folder as well. So I really recommend you do that. It will help you a lot. And I know it's helped me organize a lot of things. So thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, practice is key. Practice makes perfect. And keep it up. And also make sure you submit your edits in the folder whenever you can, whenever you shoot. And I will leave some comments, give you some feedback, and help you out there. So good luck, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.